He was a Swiss shopkeeper with a secret, and his escape would change the history of America. John Sutter was born in Switzerland in 1803. As a young man, he ran a store but was bad with money. He fell deep into debt and faced prison. To escape, he made a desperate choice. He abandoned his wife and 5 children, boarded a ship, and fled to America. He traveled for years across the wild continent, from St. Louis to Oregon, and even to Hawaii. He was a man with a dream, to build his own empire. He finally arrived in Mexican-controlled California and went to the governor with a bold offer. He would build a settlement in the wilderness to help protect the territory. The governor agreed and gave Sutter a vast piece of land in a valley no one else wanted. Sutter had his land, but it was wild and empty. He had to build a home, a farm, and a fortress from nothing. With a small group of native Hawaiians and a big dream, he started construction. But in this untamed land, surrounded by unknown tribes, would he be a builder or would he become a conqueror? Sutter built a kingdom in the wilderness, but its walls hid a terrible secret. Sutter's fort, which he named New Helvetia, New Switzerland, became the most important stopping point for American settlers arriving in California. It was a bustling place with workshops, farms, and a protective wall. Sutter was like a king, and his fort was his castle. But this kingdom was built on a foundation of cruelty. Sutter used Native American workers, but he did not treat them as employees. Historians and witnesses describe how he kidnapped them, forced them to live in locked, filthy rooms, and made them eat from troughs like animals. His private army would attack native villages to capture more workers. To the weary travelers he helped, like the rescued Donner Party, he was a hero. But to the native people of the land, he was a brutal master. Sutter's power was growing, but so was the anger of the Mexican government. They noticed he was helping too many American settlers move into the territory. Then, the Mexican governor ordered Sutter to join his army to fight against a rebellion by the local Californios. Sutter was given a choice: fight for Mexico or lose everything. Would his fragile empire be destroyed in someone else's war? A shiny discovery in the river would make Sutter's dreams come true and then shatter them forever. Sutter sent a carpenter named James Marshall to build a sawmill in the mountains. One morning, Marshall saw something glittering in the riverbed. It was gold. He rushed back to the fort and showed Sutter. They tested it and knew it was real. Sutter panicked. He knew that if word got out, his peaceful agricultural empire would be overrun. He begged everyone to keep it a secret, but the secret was too big. A merchant named Sam Brannan went to San Francisco, waved a bottle of gold dust in the air, and shouted the news to everyone. Within weeks, the gold rush began. Thousands of prospectors swarmed Sutter's land. They trampled his crops, stole his cattle, and squatted on his property. His workers abandoned him to search for gold. Sutter watched in horror as his kingdom was torn apart by the very treasure he had found. He was going broke. In a last desperate move, he sent for his adult son, John Jr., to come from Switzerland and help him save what was left. Could the son succeed where the father had failed? His son arrived to save the family fortune, but he had a very different plan. John Sutter Jr. arrived from Switzerland and saw the chaos. But unlike his father, he didn't see disaster, he saw opportunity. While his father dreamed of rebuilding his agricultural empire, the son saw the future in the crowds of miners. Without his father's full blessing, John Jr. took control of the debt-ridden business. He laid out a town on the riverbank and named it Sacramento. He began selling plots of land to the newcomers, creating a bustling city almost overnight. The elder Sutter was furious. He felt betrayed. He had wanted the city to be named Sutterville and built closer to his fort. He saw his son's actions as a greedy takeover of his life's work. The father and son were now locked in a bitter conflict over the future of the land. To pay his enormous debts, the heartbroken elder Sutter was forced to sign over his entire property to his son. Broke and defeated, he moved to a small farm. But he swore he would get his money and his land back. Would he find a way to make the government pay for what he had lost? He was the man who owned the land where the gold rush started, yet he died fighting for a pension. John Sutter spent the rest of his life as a ghost of his former self. He moved to the East Coast and tirelessly petitioned the U.S. Congress. He argued that the government owed him money for the land and property destroyed by the gold seekers. For 20 years, he walked the halls of Congress, a bitter old man telling his story to anyone who would listen. Sometimes he was given a small pension, but the big payment he dreamed of never came. In 1880, Congress once again adjourned without giving him the money he demanded. 2 days later, John Sutter died in a Washington, D.C. hotel room. The man who once ruled a private empire in California died broke and forgotten. A tragic figure who unlocked America's fortune but could never claim his own.